I glared at Calbeneth confusedly. Okay, so I take it you found the trigger mechanism? The Red Death, he replied. Lockdown! Quarantine level F? I started to bellow. Shut up! He yelled back, interrupting my orders, and shook me vigorously. He then dragged me towards a nearby microscope array and shoved my face into it to look. He put a sample in and made me look. I looked at it, making it focus. And there it was, tiny, small. The viral strain that looked like a cluster of worms entangled around a large, shorter worm. We both looked at the results, looking closely at the sample in front of us. No freaking way, I said. Indeed. So now, Reginald, I must ask, do you have any viruses that compromise or violate the human immune system? Calbeneth asked, looking at the human who was blankly staring at us. Yeah, a bunch of them, actually. HIV, AIDS, lupus, skids, a few more. Even a new strain of antibiotic-resistant tuberculosis appeared a few years ago. We aren't nearly as strong as you make us out to be. There's way too many viruses on this planet anyway. I don't know, maybe the zombie plague killed them all off? No idea. Haven't exactly had the chance to check, what with the whole don't want to be eaten alive by my neighbor thing, Reggie replied. This all stems from that last event for its evolution. Someone, somewhere found it and tried to do something with it, and somehow created a strain of virus that reconstituted dead flesh, Calbeneth said. Well, I have no idea what that is, but I can tell you where the outbreak started. Ground zero, as it were. You got a map of the planet? I can point to where it started, or at least where the news said it started, Reggie said. I read posts on news outlets and figured my way through the bullshit. If I remember right, it started in a virology lab in North Dakota, somewhere in the mountains, Reggie said. I immediately grabbed a holo screen and showed him how to use it. Here's a map. Just drag your finger on the screen to move it. Pinch to zoom out. You can figure the rest out yourself. Oh, hot damn, just like my old car GPS. Okay, let's see. North America, Canadian border, Dakota, north. Here. He drew a circle around a specific spot in a mountainous region. It was a big circle. Hardly surprising, but it was better than scouting out the entire planet. Deploy scout drones to that region immediately, I bellowed, causing the crew to immediately scramble into a work frenzy. As soon as we have the location in hand, I want a full team deployed to search the area. Kill any infected you find and set up a perimeter. That place looks reasonably defensible. We can use it as a stronghold for future operations. Calbeneth, I can't afford to have you on that ground team. Stay here and keep working. We don't have data for a cure, but I want to make sure that non-humans can't be affected by this thing. I'm going to put a new protocol down. Reggie's head spun with how fast everyone moved. He just shrugged and returned to Stacy's side to keep her calm. The ship became a bustling hub of excessive activity, and operations could finally start anew. Reggie, Stacy, and the medical data we had so far were all moved off our ship and onto the medical frigate for proper study and containment. With professional-grade equipment, it didn't take Calbeneth long to create an emergency serum for use in case of infection, and within hours we located the facility. A team was already deployed, carrying blaster rifles instead of plasma weapons. I was watching through the camera feed of a drone that was following the commander around. The team landed in a parking lot of some kind. It took us a tremendous amount of self-control to not get distracted by the military machinery that was called a tank, but we made our way through the area. It didn't take long to find the first few zombies. The creatures completely ignored the team as they always had. The team had orders and our blasters made fast work of the creatures. The team lead yelled out, "Pick your targets! Infected only, and shoot at only what you are guaranteed to hit. No collateral!" The blasters fired, and within seconds 20 or so zombies were now inert biological matter. The bolts impacted one poor bastard's head, and it just evaporated into a cloud of mist. Then the creature just flopped to the ground dead. The zombies were crowding around the entrance to the facility, and their corpses had to be dragged out of doorways so the team could enter. I'm starting to hate human architecture. I feel so cramped in these places, the team lead said. Unsurprising. The average height of a human is a meter shorter than us. I don't really think they expected us to be around. Can you see anything? I asked. Blood. Everywhere! Skeletons. Looks like some humans here were eaten completely. Damage patterns consistent with heavy combat. Ballistic munitions, probably. Power is completely gone, so I have to use local light sources, team leader replied. Sweep and clear. You're looking for laboratory equipment or a vault of some kind that keeps plagues on ice. Be careful. We don't know what they have stored in here. For all we know, with how these humans work, we might find something worse than the Red Death, I commanded. Understood, proceeding. The team moved forward. The zombies here were in a state of inertia owing to an advanced state of decay. They had been here idly shambling for months, most of them unable to move very far owing to the amount of damage they sustained. Dispatching them proved trivial at worst, and the team cleared the building room by room. The most notable aspects of this building were a boardroom of some kind filled with 12 skeletons surrounding a large table. The scanners on the troops were able to determine these people willingly consumed a beverage of poison before the zombies ate the remains. In one of the bathrooms there were clear signs of a heavy struggle. One human had been ganged up on by a few zombies. Judging from the struggle pattern and bloodstains, the poor person had been literally torn to pieces before being eaten. Some humans had managed to barricade themselves in the canteen but ran out of food in short order. The debris told us how they held out here for a time before attempting to escape using the ventilation system. Considering the amount of dried blood that had leaked out of the vent shaft, it would be safe to assume they never made it. Another room. This one slightly more interesting than simply telling a story. This one looked like a small sample laboratory, blood samples judging by the red stains inside untouched test tubes. The team swept in, finishing off a zombie that was shambling around trying to eat the wall, and made scans of everything they could find. We were instantly flooded with a truly astonishing amount of information, not only from the machinery in that room, but the quantity of documentation the humans kept around. The team rummaged in drawers and cabinets and scanned every document they could find. I messaged Kalbenith and sent him these documents and scan data. He got so excited he let out a most unprofessional squeal of delight that nearly made my oral receptors melt. The unit continued operations and eventually found the thing we were looking for, the main lab. Found something. Solid steel door. Sign says main lab. Scans can't get through it. Wait, your scanning equipment can't penetrate the door? I asked in shock. Negative. We ping and soft scan it. Nothing. We can't see behind that door. We have to open it the hard way, they said. My engineer looked at me with a sign of both shock and awe. Proceed. Destroy it if needed. Understood. Heavy blaster forward. See if we can find the hinge point on this thing, he said. The team procured a heavy bolter blaster and fired 5 separate shots at the door. The door itself shrugged off the first 3 blasts with not a scratch. The last 2 bolts found weak points in the seal, and they took advantage of that weakness, blasting the door out of its frame enough to be forced open manually. The team entered and found a human, uninfected female wearing a disheveled lab coat and a determined expression. She looked unbathed, broken. The lab part of the facility was a lot larger than it looked from the outside, and we came to the conclusion the outside area was administration of some kind. Don't come any closer. Stay away, she yelled at the team. Human female, uninfected, agitated, set for stun, the team lead said. I said stay away, she bellowed. Before she could do anything else, she was hit by a stun bolt. She crumpled onto the floor and lay there. Target disabled. Alive. Stable. Calling for a retrieval team. This is Call of the Sundown. We have our antidotes and base prep. We have a team available. Sending through. We'll transfer directly to the medical frigate. A radio comm barked at us. The Sakandi were listening in on our comms already. I guess they tapped themselves in. Sneaky devils. Copy that. Area is hot. Hostiles do not use words or communication. They simply grunt and growl. The zombies are the animals, the humans are not. Understood? I replied. Understood, we'll check targets. Shuttle on the way. Full medical team on board. Sundown out. Good. Did someone give permission to use our network without my knowing? I asked. Grand Admiral Dethalka did, my lord. The Al-Arai's Kiss arrived in the system about an hour ago. I got my orders direct from him. He tried to make contact. You were too busy with the away mission, so he made the call himself, the comms officer said calmly. That nearly made me jump out of my seat. Dethalka was here? The fleet's Grand Admiral was here? I couldn't think about that. This is the expedition team. She wasn't alone down here. We found 5 more humans. They all surrendered. 2 of them are in critical condition, begging for food and water. Orders. Evacuate them. Secure the perimeter. A heavy shuttle is on the way. Send them to the medical frigate. Clear out the rest of that place. I want proper scanners deployed as soon as possible, I commanded. Affirmative. 5 bodies on the way. 2 and 3 escort to the landing zone, the rest with me proceed. Make sure any Z you find is guaranteed dead. Destroy the brain or head, the team lead said. This is Captain Meridius. We have a situation at a potential data site location. We need reinforcements to secure the... Oh no. Shit! All ships, please advise. Ground team is occupied and human settlement is under attack by swarms of infected. Humans need emergency assistance. I barked into comms as I just got an emergency ping from the observation drone at the settlement known as Sanctuary. Bulwark reporting, drive charging, all personnel moving to stations. We are small enough to operate in atmosphere. Permission to proceed? I didn't have time to consider options. I was getting too many messages from too many sources. Luckily, I had a command structure that took over. This is Grand Admiral Dathalka. I am taking command of military and security operations. Science and medical teams will remain in operation and hand over scouting duties to other ships. Kaldor Fleet will remain as escorts. All other ships will proceed to provide orbital support immediately. All ships capable of atmospheric travel proceed to supply close ground support. All ships to battle stations, all ground teams deploy. The radio chimed at us. I breathed a sigh of relief but still had a job to do. Science team at Point 1 outpost. Human settlement is under attack. Proceed to provide assistance immediately, I commanded. Understood, we are moving now. Sending data we have and proceeding to location. Time of arrival, 2 minutes. Bulwark reporting, drive charged. Blinking in 2, 1. One of the Sakandi frigates, a relatively small assault craft with reasonable armament, then vanished from the fleet and reappeared above the human settlement that Stacy came from. Within seconds, we were tapped into the security feed on their ship to see what was going on to study the Horde's movements. The zombies had gathered around the barricades by the thousands, the humans in the settlement desperately fighting back against the Horde. Some were firing rifles wildly into the mass, cutting Zeds down by the dozens, but their sheer numbers were just too much. The zombies were crowding around gates and barricades, using sheer mass of numbers to break through. The barricade starts to give way when the Bulwark uses its small but still formidable cannon array to cut the Horde's numbers in half following several explosions. At this time, plasma fire starts coming from the surrounding woodland, and several groups of zombies turn into piles of goop. One of our berserkers charges from the tree line and in full sprint uses a plasma sword to slice and dice through the whole horde of monsters. The humans are confused, scared, and agitated, so my men take a few bullets from the exchange. No damage, of course. Human weapons were decent, but wouldn't do much against our armor plating. The Bulwark deployed its own combat teams to the ground, and within minutes the battle was over. It wasn't easy seeing this much damage. The humans were agitated. They saw our war mechs, our ship in the sky, and a full cadre of assault troopers, all of which were taller than they were and just came out of nowhere. The science team started wandering about between the army and finished off stragglers and wanderers, collecting samples and parts that had been blown off for study. The two forces simply stood there and stared at each other, unsure of how to really proceed with what was going on. The silence carried for several minutes. Nobody really sure what to do about the situation. Scans were done and we counted 683 humans. I made a snap decision and called the medical frigate. I needed to placate them as fast as possible. We could prove we were not against them. I barked into my comms unit and serenade to the medical frigate. Shortly thereafter, I got word my order was being carried out. Apparently, Kalbanith got everything he needed. A shuttle was quickly dispatched to the ground and landed in the midst of the settlement. The boarding ramp lowered, and the humans in the crowd gasped in shock as Stacy and Reginald made their way down to the concrete. They both looked fed, healthy, and above all, clean, a contrast to the disheveled mess that was the rest of the town's populace. A woman in the crowd noticed the child and charged towards her. The woman moved with such ferocity she knocked over one of our Praetorians as she rushed over, embracing the child. Tiny little Stacy smiled and hugged back. "Hi, Mommy!" Reginald took a moment of calm as he approached a survivor with a pool of blood from a scratch slowly forming next to him on the asphalt from a gash in his arm. The virus was already taking hold. The agitation, adrenaline, and blood loss already made him start shaking violently from the infection. His teeth chattered, and he was barely able to stand as other survivors pulled away from him. Reggie presented a small bottle of blue liquid and poured it over the wound. The gash closed, the blood stopped. The man stopped shaking. Color returned to his face. He stood straight and looked at himself. He was fine. He'd gotten scratched. Minutes from now, he would have had a bullet in his head and a mourning family, but now he was okay. Reggie turned to face the crowd of onlookers and spoke in a strangely joyful tone. So, these guys are space aliens from space. They like us and, are here to help. So, yeah. The human male Reggie just healed turned to face the crowd, a tear rolling down his cheek. A moment of stunned silence followed before every human in the crowd began to yell and jump for joy.